That some persons had known him for a very long time. And so he was like a son to a couple of the persons who were there. So yeah. But it's hard. It's hard. It just brings home because we had the four in Crawl. We had the little girl that was murdered by
Yeah.
her, the 27-year-old who tried to kill himself, who raped and then killed her and then tried to kill himself. We had that father and son.
Are you adding it up?
I'm trying. Yeah, because it's been tremendous. And some of it is. Remember, we prayed yesterday about the crawl one, and but it's hard. It's hard. It's very very hard for us as a people, as a nation, when it seems to be just going on. Like we're becoming unhinged.
Like how you say becoming.
Becoming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's here.
So,
I remember sitting at this table and seeing, we were talking about the death of that young architect who had been killed in a
yeah.
very military execution
Nation
style.
style. Yes.
And I saw something crawling to Jamaica, just winging its way from Haiti. And one of the things that, I mean, you and I know it, when you are resisting evil, there's a pattern to your behavior that, if not maintained, you become the evil you are seeking to repel. There's only one way to resist the devil, and it is with the word of God, the sword of the Spirit. There's really only one way. Any other thing you do exposes you to danger, and there is there is the belief that when you are seeking to address something of that nature, if your spirit is unguarded, it will occupy you. There'll be a transference. So I asked you, for example, when you're doing grief counseling, how much of the energy surrounding the grief, or the grief is really energy, how much of it is transferred really to you is what I meant. If you are an effective grief counselor, all of it is transferred because you are seeking to remove the negative energy from the person's feelings so that what remains is the positive, uplifting part that allows you to find beauty in pain and in death and in suffering, so you can use it to lift you above whatever circumstances you're in. There's no doubt that grief, that loss, that suffering, that pain has those two layers to it. One, which is a necessary part of growth and renewal, and the other, which can become destructive if you don't channel it in a right direction. We who are people of faith believe that when you experience suffering, grief, the emotions which cause the soul to buckle and to feel despair, when you experience those things, there's a place that you lay it. We say the altar, lay it on the altar. We say give it to God. Scripture says, cast your cares on me because I care for you. I will take it. And because I have an inexhaustible capacity for all things, when you give it to me, oh, you don't need to worry what happened to it.
And one of the things that it says weeping. Weeping is a part of who we are
Human
as human
experience.
experience. And it is instructive that God has wired us that way, that if something shocking or sudden happens to you, you weep. You can weep for joy. You can weep when there is pain.
Great pain.
And it says weeping.
That's your relief valve.
Yes. Weeping may endure for a night, but your joy comes in the morning. And when we speak of the joy of the Lord becomes your strength. So as you says that there's a way it can engulf you. Because I've known of persons that have grieved for years. Remember I told you about the gentleman that I encountered whose daughter had died tragically.
21 years ago or something like that.
And I saw all the paraphernalia, and I was offering words of condolences to him. And he began to tell the story. So I said, when did your daughter pass? And he told me the time, and I was,
Now you immediately start to counsel him. So
no,
let it go, my
no,
brother.
no, I didn't.
Oh,
I was taken aback because that was like 10, 15 years
you were
ago.
stuck in
That
time.
it was it. And that is what happens to us a lot of times. But just to go back to your point, in grief counseling, the whole thing is to help people to process what has happened, to say to them the way that you are feeling, there's nothing wrong with how you are feeling, but no, it's a part of the process. Some people grieve quickly, some people grieve for longer periods. But like for that gentleman, we call that psychopathology in terms that there's something wrong when you've held on to. So I said to him, so you need to get some help in terms of it. And even last week, the similar thing was happening to our guest in terms of the grief that he was
Yeah.
feeling and the prayers. But to allow for the process to happen. There are different models in terms of how we grieve that we work with in terms of
Oh, you
different
mean how you counsel?
how we counsel
Okay.
people, the model of
Because I don't choose a model for grieving. I don't say, well, my mom is gone. Oh, no, I won't say that. My mom is very much here.
no, I'm
My
just
dad
saying
is
that.
gone.
Yeah, but in
I'm
terms
gonna,
of how you deal with it,
yeah, so it's the
and I think
counseling.
that helps us in because even in terms of the physiology of joy and laughter, I say to people, it's so important that you try to remember the individual in a happy way,
Yes.
because that helps you in terms of the process of grief. And
And if he was a real miserable, mean spirited
there
person,
must be something good.
well, you ought not to be grieving.
No, no, they still grieve.
You still grieve for
There's,
the.
there's still the shock. You probably want, you see, one of the things is for some people, you're hoping that they would die, but they never figured that they would die that kind of
So then you feel
you
guilty.
feel it, God, there's even the guilt.
You
Or
feel,
even for persons. You see this happen a lot of time in funerals because I've had to work with people, okay. They never paid any attention. They never paid any attention to their parent when the parent was alive in
right.
terms of
Giving the care and
giving the
love
care and
that's
love.
needed.
But when the person is died, they're going to pour all of this money, this expensive thing, and some family members say, no, no, wait.
Don't come here
And
with
it
it.
don't, and it creates a rift in the family. I've seen that in recent times, and I said, no, no. We called and we said, mama or dad needed this. Some like simple things like incontinence
Incontinence.
diapers because
Yeah.
they and then was asking them and they said, all right, all right. But when the person died, that person wanted to take over and to do this big splash and this and I said, no, it's all right.
I'm going to ask you this,
Yes.
Percival.
Yes.
What would be wrong with letting the person waste their money?
Because the people said no, it's an affront to
No, no,
the
no, no.
memory.
I'm asking you if you were, it's
No,
an affront to whose memory?
to
Can't be the dead person
not to
because the
the
dead
dead
person
person,
have
no, to
no.
the persons who are there and because they are grieving too and them say no, this outlandish outlay of cash now. And you could have helped in terms of mom, dad being
But
much
but
longer.
but isn't that kind of like a vengeful, spiteful?
Yes, I know that part of it. But
Because really, you know, I just think about it and I say, what's with that if the person want to
waste their money.
waste their money? Let's call it that. Waste their money. If they want to waste their money.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're being fairly mean yourself when you say to one who is feeling guilty and thinks that spending money lavishly is going to make up
For
for,
the years
yeah.
up. Yeah.
Or maybe in their mind, you all were there doing what was needed at the time that it was needed. I couldn't be there because we have a way of judging people who don't show up. We have no idea why they're absent, but we assume that because we made the time, anyone who does not make the time is being delinquent,
No,
unreasonable.
it's not. It's not. Wasn't even an assumption. It is in this instance I'm reporting.
Yeah.
They reached out on many
Yeah,
occasions to the
so
person to
yeah,
say, "Can you?"
yeah.
And they were asking them all kind of
And
questions.
I
What you need the
was,
money for?
yeah, and because maybe in on many occasions I gave you money and you did your
No,
own
no,
thing
no.
with
They
it.
never gave no money at
No,
all.
no, no. I'm saying, I guess what I'm encouraging here is for us not to judge so conclusively that we make determinations that might affect another person's health and well-being in a manner that brings nothing to us. Suppose now, for example, the person had been, look at our guest last week who said one of the things he was doing was he had some ambitions to do various things for his mom. Did what he could while she was here, but his real desire was to do some big things at a point in time when he could afford it. There are some people who are saving up to do what they think is what they call a big thing. And they miss the little things in between, but they say the end justifies the means. And then they are cheated of the opportunity to do their big thing. And when the death intervenes and they say, well, all right, all that I was saving up, let me do something grand in honor of my parent. And it is also as a means of just settling my own anxieties and guilt, yes. And then they show up with their big gift, and the others who were there day to day, wiping the floor, washing the body, please says, no, 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 you were not here to do the grunt work. We want nothing from you. When in fact, what the person is doing is not for those family members, it is to honor their parent and also to settle maybe a covenant that they had made with themselves. That's what I'm talking about because we are told do not judge. We don't know what's going on in a man's heart when he don't show up, maybe when he doesn't do what you think he should do. And there are many situations when people allow pride to cause them to behave in a manner. They would rather you think that they are mean than they just say to you, you know me not have the money. Look at Percy thinking deeply as Minette defends mankind.
I'm just thinking about it and saying
Yeah.
which is a trap that a lot of people
Yeah.
get caught
Yeah.
into.
I
They have
have
this major goal in mind, but in getting
life.
to the goal, they're not enjoying the
Life.
journey, and they get to the
Yeah.
goal and they say, this is what this is really
Life
about.
intervenes and then lose out on so much.
So
They
I
become
like what
ungrateful.
you are saying, but my
Yeah.
counter to that,
Yeah.
to persons out there, is the greater thing for you is the journey, not the destination.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always.
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 So a
And
lot of
yeah.
us are missing the journey and what God is seeking to do for us and through us, and we only focus on that one goal, and we miss in the
We
end.
miss the getting there.
We miss the getting
So
there. Yeah.
why we
And just to close, I say to
Yeah.
my children all the time, when they were in high school, I said, enjoy it. You're not gonna come back here. You not, and I'm just you're not
come
gonna
back here, I'm not paying for it. That's really what you're saying.
I'm not even saying. I'm saying to them, maximize your high school experience. Enjoy it, enjoy it, because it is teaching you stuff. You're learning things. It is building your character. Don't just focus on the end
Getting
result.
away from it.
Like
Yeah.
a lot of people, I'm saying to them, because of the mentoring I do with a lot of young people, I say to them, in school, remember, you're writing your recommendation. You are doing your own transcript. So don't
Yes,
think that
Jesus.
at the end of it, I'm going to get these 10 ones in my CXC, but then you're not focused on doing the work, and your transcript not looking so hot. Because when you go for scholarships or whatever, them see the end result.
What are you what in that advice? What are you really communicating? The importance of scholastic excellence or being an all-rounded person, which means getting into sports and debating and
all
the
rounded
Christian club and the glee club where
and
you
all
sing and
those
dance.
things. And you're learning, you're
Because your
developing.
transcript captures all of that, or your
Yes, it
transcript
does.
is the part with the grades?
No, man,
What
captures
goes
all of
to
that. it captures all of that. It captures the grades and your involvement in the other stuff.
I haven't seen a transcript in a long time,
So,
but the ones
because
I'm
I've seen the
reflecting,
recent, yes.
oh, okay, they've revised.
No, they revised it.
Because I know, like my son gets, my son's report is different. I've never seen one like that because they do like a psychometric testing and analysis, and the evaluation is done on all of the different quotients, emotional, intelligence.
Yeah.
What else? There's like 3 or 4 things that they go into depths about character and so on and so forth.
It's not as detailed as that.
Yeah, this is a book. I get a
A
book
book. You
on
get a
my
book.
son once a year.
Oh, wow, you get
I
a
get a
wonderful book.
I get a book. But that's because of the kind of program he is in, where there are professionals who are measuring everything.
Dr. D.
And she uses, when she told me the number of persons who are considering my son's, we they're treating him like another child in the house that need to be told to go wash his face and go to bed on time. Well, never that for him, as you probably know. Oh no, it's not you. Someone asked him that, what time you go to bed? Daniel is in bed by 7 o'clock.
You told him 7 o'clock, 8.
6. His father had to talk to him about, he'll wake up. Yeah, just, he was seeking to balance how early he needs to go to bed so he gets up in time and has enough hours. But he is, I'll say it, he's been classified as profoundly gifted with some asynchronous developmental issues, which his brain is moving at warp speed, but his emotional intelligence is moving at the chronological age. And so it sometimes it just causes some bizarre burps. So the teachers and everybody is just, kind of coaching us. Thank God this child came with a manual.
He did.
Yes, he did. Not all parents find the manual. Let me put it that way. There's a manual
And you
for all
learn
of
it.
us. Not all parents
And
find the
it
manual
learn
in
it.
time.
But I don't want us to miss what we're saying in terms of the grieving and how people grieve, how important
I was
that
moving
is.
to the joy that cometh in the morning, but
And
you want to
the-
go back to the grief. Okay.
Yeah, the joy, but the joy always comes, and the joy of the Lord makes you strong. Yeah, the joy of the Lord makes you strong. Yeah.
Oh, Earl Brown is exercising his man. Good morning, Earl. Earl says, what are the perks that come with those awards and medals that Jamaicans get yearly by the government?
Nothing.
I think it comes in a nice box.
Nice box, that's what you get.
And
Yeah.
and you can, I guess, your children can inherit it, but not to wear it and say
No.
it's a trinket. I don't think there are any perks that come with it, like
No
a
perks, you don't get no
year-long
perks.
supply of Blue Mountain coffee.
No, don't get no perks. It's just a thing there in the name.
Or a check. But you get parties because once you are awarded, there is always a party if you have people who want to celebrate with you. I shouldn't say always. I've known a few people who just had breakfast and went back home,
That's it.
or had lunch and went back home.
For the persons who.
Yeah. All right. Earl was answering the question I posed to you. We're going to get back to it because I want us to exercise our mind on it a bit. Earl says, only those who died in Christ and those who remain in Christ will be caught up to go to heaven. And he quotes from the book of Thessalonians.
Oh,
The question I had posed to you, and I'm making a list
You were
of the
asking me.
Portmore father and his son. The father died, he gave his life for his son, it would seem, though his son was also taken. The family of 4 in Crawl who died at the hands of terrorists. The 2 8-year-old girls. I haven't heard what the situation is regarding the little girl who was found with a plastic bag over her head. The father saying, the stepfather, I think, just noting her absence. He had sent her in the house to put on her shoes, and when she didn't come back, he went to check and found her on the floor with the plastic bag over her head. She had come out with a plastic bag in her hand to go somewhere. That is the account in the paper. But she didn't have her shoes on. And he sent her back to put her shoes on. And time passed. She didn't come out. He went to check. The door was open, the house, she was on the floor, no intruder in sight. The little girl was dead.
She.
no report as to whether her body showed signs of molestation or trauma. Just a plastic bag over the head, which is one way that people commit suicide too, by the way.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah.
But
Um,
so long, so from he said, go and get her,
yeah.
go and put on his shoes, and you go in a plastic bag. And what was the time frame?
Yeah, those nitty-gritty, that wasn't offered. How long? But just long enough for him to say, "Where's that?" Like, and he was not alone, because the report suggested that someone was there with the father. The stepfather, like he was a carpenter or something. He was doing something.
So how old was this
Not
little
alone.
girl?
8. We lost two 8-year-old girls within the same time span. You need to tell me, Percy, what is the significance of the number 8 in the
It speaks of new beginnings.
in the demonic world? So somebody trying to start over again. There's something going on where 8-year-old girls are being taken, especially, yeah. So, and then there was the young girl in St. Anne. We're hearing a lot more about her than about the one in Portland, but such is the nature of things. We're going to take the break now because it's 7 o'clock. When we come back, I will exercise Percival's newly acquired professional skills.
Voiceless 100 FM is the authentic voice of Jamaica, promoting your prosperity with better vibes and better music. Let us promote your goods and services for you. Advertise with us. For more information, call our office at 876 276 8935. That's 276 8935.
This is your beloved Pastor Percy from the Morning Connection. Support our commitment to Jamaica by joining us on Wednesday mornings at 7:30 when we pray for the nation. Show us you care. Advertise with us. For more information, call our offices at 876 276 8935.
Good morning and welcome back. So, not to speak ill of the dead or do things which are not within our remit, but wanting to teach something this morning, I made a note to ask to invite Pastor Percival into a certain discussion so you and I could exercise our mind and learn a little more about the heart and the mind of God concerning the affairs of men. I saw two great Jamaicans arriving at the pearly gates, getting I'm being, I'm just being creative with my imagination here.
Because we always, no, the truth is we always see this that people come to the gate and it's St. Peter standing up there because
Yes.
he's the person who they says upon this rock, and so he's the guardian.
So,
He's the guardian there.
right. So we're arriving from Jamaica, arriving from Jamaica, a prince of the nation, a king, really, one who lived a full life, contributed at the highest levels, many national honors to his name, has left monuments that mark his time on earth. Yesterday, you observed that all the mourners seem to do full page ads. The Gleaner is doing well from this, from the grief of the nation. A prince, one of our own, is now arriving at the pearly gates. Right behind him, a convicted murderer, one who has spent over 30 years behind bars. His contribution has been to serve the needs of the neglected, the forgotten, prisoners who have struggled with mental health illnesses, prisoners who have no one sending food, money for them, who lack society, love, and care. One who has used his voice to champion the cause of the forgotten, taking things to court, fighting for proper nutrition and care for the ones who are behind bars. Himself recently released, diagnosed with a fatal illness, now at the pearly gates. So now I'm asking Percival to just walk me through
Well, the first thing is
the kind of evaluation of life that one could receive. And I thought to myself, I do not believe there are many conversations in which the late Danny Williams and the late Linton Berry would be standing shoulder to shoulder. Even my putting it forward, some may say it is sacrilegious, that it is disrespectful to the memory of the man. That at the time of his passing, I am even positing a discourse on how each of them would be received on the other side of this life. But I am one known for boldness, so here I go.
so you're going in your boldness by yourself.
Your turn. Your turn, Percy. Walk with me, Percy. Say that out loud. Say that out loud.
You
Say
go
it again.
alone in your boldness. I'm not following back at you this morning.
No, you're supposed to be beside me. I'm not looking behind. I am shoulder to shoulder with you.
It's interesting that you say that, and you have. Let me go.
You're finding scripture.
It's something that when I do funerals, I share on. It's the parable of the rich fool. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Jesus replied, "Who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" Then he said to them, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed."
Is that in Luke?
Luke 12. Luke 12. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, "What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns, build bigger ones, and there I'll store my surplus. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for you. Take life easy, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "You fool. It's very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself?" But Jesus makes a very interesting statement. It says, "This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves but is not rich towards God." And the question is, how do you become
Rich towards
rich
God.
towards God?
Yay.
How do you do things here that puts you in a place that when St. Peter in your example is there.
Oh, and may I just add that Earl Brown wants to know if Peter is standing, does he have wings or not? That's an important question for you to address.
Oh my Lord.
Does he have wings or not? People want to know.
I don't know. I just think people just come up with this thing, because it
Well,
would mean that Saint Peter has become an angel.
well,
Right?
I was gonna say, let's be accurate. Saint Peter is
It's
not
not
an
an
angel.
angel. Saint Peter is not an
It's a
angel.
man
He's a man who
enjoying a resurrected
resurrected
body.
right?
But
And Jesus in his resurrected body never had
Didn't
angels,
have
because
wings.
there's a difference between angels and men who have been resurrected. So
angels are servants and
that's
messengers.
right?
They're not as highly placed as
Yeah, because
the saints.
he has created us. It's a little
All right,
lower,
so
but
carrying on. Sorry, Percy.
so how do you become rich towards God? So I ask you that question.
Well, there are works. Well, first, everything begins with the love of and obedience to the ways and what God has ordained for you. So while you're on earth, your challenge is to bring yourself in alignment with the will of God for you, because He says before you were born, there are some great works that He set aside for you to come into the earthly realm and do perform. So being rich towards God would comprise each individual bringing themselves into knowledge of what has been ordained for them to do, purpose, and then doing it to the level of excellence that you would say, I have won my race.
Okay. And somebody says being rich towards God is to be rich in good deeds, rich in generosity, and rich in relationships. Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant or to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything we need for our enjoyment. So being rich towards God, to me, is about the works you do, which is in obedience to how God says we must live our
yes.
lives, fearing God, and then loving our neighbor as ourselves.
But
and
it's
being-
not but it's not random works. I mean, we know that it's good to give to certain cases, but you jockeying to go and give to the person that Minette is supposed to give to because that person seem high profile, or that looks like that's a better fit, or
because that's how
you're-
some people give their works. They say,
right.
I'm doing these works because I want everybody to see me. God says, no, that's not it.
Your field of work might be in prison,
Yeah.
but you don't really want to go in that place because it smells bad and the people might attack you. So you decide that you'd rather work with the orphans, or you'd rather work with school children.
But the word of God says, what is good religion in James?
That's I was hoping you would get there.
Is it what is
The widows, the orphans, the poor people in their moment of distress. In their moment of distress. Not when they have been refreshed and revived and on the uprising.
and it is interesting.
Catch them when they have need for you.
It is it is interesting that some of the questions that we are asking in the Word of God, He tells you what is good religion. James
Yes.
clearly outlines that. And when you go through the Old Testament, especially in Isaiah, what does God say woe to people about?
Yeah.
People who are doing ripping off them fellow man. That is why it is so important that you are rich in your relationships in terms of how you are treating your fellow man. Woe to him who has
So
scales that are
we still
unbalanced.
have two people at the gate tonight. We cannot take too long. Although they're in eternity, but you and I still have other things to do.
But what I'm saying
So
is
I
that
want you to touch on something for me.
we're setting the framework in terms of how it is that God judges what you do.
Yeah.
Because he
It's not a secret. He
It's
has
not a
laid
secret.
He has laid out us, and
Right.
I'm taking. That's what I want you to draw on. There is the story, another one of Christ's parables about Dives and the rich man, Lazarus. I'm sorry, Lazarus at the gate of the rich man. I'm drawing you there not because I believe that there was somebody wanting attention at a certain rich man's gate. There's always a rich man and a gate and a poor man. But because I want you to talk about, in your giving, what is the measurement of your giving? Is it how much you've given, the impact it has had, how much you retain, what is the measure, and what are the guidelines that we could draw on to say you have two persons who have given. If you had to balance the giving at this point, I can see that both men are going to be admitted, but there are levels and levels.
Yeah, because people don't even know, why Jesus kept speaking about accountability in terms of the talents. The one with the 5 talents,
Yes.
the one with the
Yes,
4.
using what you've given.
And using it to give glory and honor to God.
Right.
That is the real measure.
So you've touched on one nerve there. It is being a good steward, using what you have been given. So if you've been given talents and you have not used them to bring glory to God, you have used them to profit yourself, to build an empire, to be remembered greatly by men, then you're going to be one of those Pharisee person who their reward is in the accolades they get on earth.
Right. Not in
Because
heaven.
men sure did appreciate all that they were doing, but they were not using the talents to bring glory to God. They
Because
were
that is-
using it to gather adulation and worldly applause. Not
but-
saying that Mr. Williams did that. He
No.
sure got enough worldly applause.
Yeah, but
But
even I think we are created as beings to worship God.
yes.
Remember,
Yes.
our worship is our work.
Yeah.
And our worship being our work means that in the things that I'm doing, I'm seeking at all times to
For-
bring
for it
glory
to-
and honor to God. To honor
For it to count
and
in
to
that moment of
Bec-
accountability.
because that is how
Yeah.
he's ultimately a judge, and he's watching, he's looking, and he's
The widow's mite.
and I
I
was
think-
gonna go to that
All right, I'm
because
taking you there, man.
He was saying that, look at this. These guys came in, as it were, and they were given. And one preacher I heard says he just catch himself against the offering plate and was watching who was giving. And he says, you see all of those people who have given?
So it's biblical to watch who's giving.
Yeah, to judge people's works.
No, some people say the pastor only
But
watches.
yeah,
And I'm teasing you.
You know,
That's
and,
what.
and he says to them, no, you see that lady? She's rich towards me because out of her nothingness, she's given all that she has. Them, it's kind of
Do
would
you-
say the what left.
Yeah. Do you think that people like Bill Gates and some other wealthy people who have created trusts into which they have put a great proportion of their wealth in order for the trust to do good works, are they
But the good
doing
works to what? Good works to bring honor and glory to
So
God.
you're answering it.
Yeah.
The test is, are those works bringing honor and glory to God?
Are those works that they are
they're
doing?
monuments.
Yeah. Are those works aligning themselves with what God's original plan has been for humanity? Because remember, we are the what? The pearl? We are the centerpiece of his creation. And if you are creating these monuments and doing all of these things to go counter to what God has said, human beings have been created in the image and likeness of God to bring glory and honor to him.
And
It
then
look good enough. It look
Yeah.
good, but God
Yeah.
saying, when I send the fire against it,
yeah.
what yet remains?
And then number 3, I'm making a note. What of the commandment coming out of the Sermon on the Mount that you love your enemies? It is loving the unlovable that
It's good religion.
makes you rich towards God.
Yeah, because you're coming
Because-
out of yourself. You're making a distinct decision first to obey God
By loving the unlovable.
by loving the unlovable and loving your neighbor as yourself.
So in your evaluation then, supporting the growth of wealth nationally for both the rich and, well, mostly the rich, the rich get rich and the poor get poor. That rule holds. You working in that field versus being in the prisons, in the gutters of the streets and the ghettos and so on, that working in that unlovable field would rank more highly than working in the,
On the face of it,
yeah,
yes, but on the face of it also, remember each one of us walking in purpose.
yes,
And
yes.
so
Oh,
even the man who,
top of the class, Percy.
even the man who is
Yeah.
walking in, because you have to understand purpose, because God is not against wealth and riches. Let me just put that out on the table. The question is, when you get it,
Who is ruled by it?
which is what the question where I started in Luke 12 was about being rich towards God. Because it's not that God was saying in that parable, hey, not wrong with the wealth, but the man's priority and the man's focus and the center of his worship was about himself and not about God. Because
So,
it served God versus mammon. Again, the scriptures just come to back.
your evaluation. All right.
Yep, ma'am.
So Percy is acing it. Let's take a break. I'm
Yep.
going to find a question that will make him struggle when we return. Welcome back. It's 7:37 a.m. Thursday morning. We are delighted to be outdoors at the Ligony Club. It's one of those perfect mornings where you're looking at the brilliant sunshine ahead of you. Everything is glistening. You could even see a little dew on the grass. But where you are is cool. We're in the shade under the big mango tree, which gives generously when it's in fruit. Thankfully, it's not in fruit now because sometimes it punishes you with its generosity. Anyway, thanks to the Ligony Club for hosting us on Free Flowing Thursdays. We are very pleased to be outdoors. This is a breath of fresh air for me. I talk about it all the time. We are on the dining terrace. If you are visiting Kingston, this is a premier place to spend some time. You have the flexibility of just chilling in the gardens, taking a swim in our oversized swimming pool
Not oversized.
near Olympic
Near
size
Olympic size swimming pool.
swimming pool, a full service gymnasium where you can do just about everything. You're right by the Emancipation Park. So if jogging is your preference and you want to be on a jogging trail and be seen out and about in the city, we're right next to Mandela Park. We have 6 squash courts, 8 tennis courts, and I could go on and on. But I think maybe the icing on the cake is JD's Urban Pub, where they now do a buffet breakfast. So the waiting time for those who don't like to wait, the waiting time is near zero, and the staff is friendly, they're courteous, and
look
I
out
would
for
say
us.
they certainly spoil our team, especially Percival, because there's women on the wait staff, and they're very tender with the pasta.
But do I say that, that
So you
work
get
will
to
not
give
get
a-
that
yep.
work will not get you into heaven. That is
Which one? Being tender with the pasta?
no being envious.
No, that's not envious. That's giving credit where credit is
Oh,
due.
well, I tell you,
I benefit when they are kind to you, you know.
it's been up on
They always bring it up. They bring it up for two.
shoulder.
Precisely so. So I benefit from it. But no, we do recommend the Ligony Club and JD's Urban Pub. We've been here now
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah.
We came for 6 months. We're like that neighbor that doesn't leave. You know, the visitor who come and say, I just dropped by. And then before you know it, they're living in your house.
Oh, jeez, man.
Yeah,
What
that's who we are in
Oh,
this
no.
garden.
I'm not, no, about
Listen, sometimes when I come in the morning, I sweep up because the leaves have fallen. I think they appreciate. I do my
Thursday morning.
yeah, I do my
Do
share.
your penance.
I do my share. But no, we are talking some serious matters because so many Jamaicans are dying, and it's not just the fact of death, but the circumstances in which they die. We are pleased when they die from old age and natural causes. Those who die in a state of terror, not pleased at all. But it is giving us an opportunity to speak a little about the afterlife. And as Pastor Percival put it, how do you ensure that you are rich towards God?
You send it
Because
ahead of you, man.
there is an afterlife. And if I were you and you get into a debate, is there, isn't there, I would say just assume there is and do what is necessary to secure you. Because guess what? There are no do-overs.
Yeah,
When,
that is
when you close your eyes and you realize, shoot, they were right.
all of this time. So it's better.
Yeah, it's
Somebody
too
said
late.
somebody spoke about if you're a gambling person, you can't lose with this gamble to live your life with the reality that there's an afterlife. Because if you say there's an afterlife and you do what you need to do, you're good. But if you say there's none and you end up dying, you're going, ooh, what's happening here? what?
Yeah,
They
that's
were
not
right all this time.
right. That's not the time for you to say, "Oh my goodness, I wish I had believed what I was hearing." So, Pastor mentioned the widow's mite, and from the widow's mite. Well, first you did the rich fool, which
Rich young fool. Yeah,
which tells you about not just stewardship but prudence in how you treat with wealth, using it to bring glory to God as opposed to saving it up for yourself, thinking that you are your own provider.
You're not the Egyptians who figured
Oh, you mean the pyramids,
the
that
pyramid.
you can take it into the afterlife.
Yeah.
Okay, the second thing you mentioned, which it seems real important to me, you mentioned the widow's mite. And the the great lesson from the widow's mite is
Motivation.
it's not what you give, it's what you have retained. If you give of all you have, then it is noticed in heaven, it counts. So those who die super, super wealthy have a problem because they now have to think, did I really keep back the best for myself and only give from
What
the
left?
pickings? Because
Because
I
a
was
lot of people
always,
do that. Because somebody told me the story of this person, this gentleman, who, when he started giving, gave 10, then 20, and he ended up eventually giving away 90%
90%.
of what he earned because
Yeah.
they say I can't live on
On
10%.
10.
But the remarkable thing about that is as he started to give, it started to increase.
So the 10% became more and more.
And he,
Right.
and he
Yeah.
was able to say, I don't need all of this because, you know, there, in our world, there is the tendency to show off. Like you relate to the story of some recent executives who heard about this 350,000 US dollar Benz and said, we want three of those. And the next thing we heard, three of those? It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And we have a tendency as human beings
To think that more.
to flaunt it in the face and to
Yeah.
show off.
We think more wealth means more pleasure, more blessing.
It
and
doesn't,
It
and
doesn't.
people find the
doesn't.
emptiness in all of what has happened and then going,
It
ooh,
is truly more blessed to give
than to receive.
than to receive.
Yeah.
So we learn from the widow's mite that being rich in God means you have kept the little for yourself and given the greater portion
To
to
the
the
glory.
need. And if you can give all, the Lord notices. Then I want to take you to one of my favorite parables. This is the rich man and Lazarus. And the lesson to be pulled from that. Because the rich man died wealthy. He was not like our late great son who was known for good, was a Dorcas to many,
Yeah.
known for good deeds.
Him did live it up.
He lived it up and he
And
ignored
and the man was at
the
it-
one who was right at his gate.
Yeah.
But there's a question when he asked for Lazarus to be sent back to warn the other rich people. And there are many rich people
And
who
his
are
brothers.
still in
He
Jamaica.
say, all of my brothers.
All of my brethren down there from the lodge who are still
Oh, jeez.
missing the point. When he asked for that, an answer was given to him, which is where I think we should be going. He said, of course,
I beg you.
it was
I beg you.
refused.
So he said, he answered, I beg you, Father, send Lazarus to my family, for I have 5 brothers. Let him warn them so that they will not also come to this place of torment. It is a place of torment because if you have not prepared for it, you will surely go there. And Abraham replied, they have Moses and the prophets.
Let them listen to them. So right here on earth is the answer to that question. But there is, when he asked Father Abraham to have pity and send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in the water to cool his tongue. And Abraham replied, son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things while Lazarus received bad things. But now he is comforted here and you are in agony. Now that tells me that the more good things you receive, you should be like saying, hey, let me just look for some punishment here because I don't want it to be said that I got all my good things in this realm. There no suffering. It is really to emphasize that there is value and virtue in how you deal with suffering.
And in how you deal with the things that
And
you have.
in how you deal with the things you have
that
amassed.
yes.
Yeah.
And what to do with it.
Yeah. So like Mr. Berry, who spent 31 years behind bars, living as a prisoner, doing his good deeds in that field.
And the mother said, boy, I'm rich, so but
Yes, because he was wealthy and a man of substance.
Before. Yeah, and then it shifted.
Then it went into that area where he had to do his work for 31 years.
And he was so very impactful there.
Yeah.
It is just the balance that we need to have in terms of how we live our lives. And as I keep saying, how do we send become rich towards God. And God has clearly outlined how you become rich towards Him. I don't want people to get the impression that is only good works, because the truth is getting there. You have to make sure.
All right. I am sensing that we need to send a pair of wings to Earl.
You want to send up your wings
Yeah,
to
I'm just having that feeling.
in regards to it.
I am just having that feeling. Earl has asked like 1,000 questions about wings.
No, but I don't want us to miss this.
Which one? About the wings?
No, not the wings.
Oh, all right. So tell
About
him to stop with the wings.
no man, we talk. He want chicken wings or something. Probably that's what he want. But I'm just thinking in regards to becoming rich towards God is first sorting out your priorities in terms of your relationship with this God who has made it so easy for everybody to be in right relationship through the finished work of the cross and Calvary. Because if it was good works alone, some would get in and some would get in. But God says He's leveled the playing field and says this is how you get in, and then out of that relationship, in response to me, having chosen me as a priority in your life, then everything else sorts itself out in regards to it. All right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I have, it looks like
Things from-
4 things from
last-
yesterday. Yeah, because, you know, you and I agreed on pursuing certain initiatives as we push for change and for the reformation of church and man's heart, however. And we've tackled them, and they're having some impact. A few more things came up out of our discussion yesterday that I said I would just reserve it for today.
I mean, jerk wings?
I'd brought up the law suit which the U.S. Virgin Islands brought against J.P. Morgan. And the focus here now is not so much on that the government of a country did it, but that they saw the necessity to bring justice and bring scrutiny to the actions of a large financial institution which had knowledge, had information, which could have been used to prevent the violation of some, you know, basic rights of individuals.
And human beings, yeah.
Right. A part of it is that I think J.P. Morgan, after Epstein's death, disclosed to the U.S. government, disclosed to the authorities, information pertaining to over $1 billion worth of transactions.
Related to what he was doing?
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
Yes. When
Maybe
they
trafficking in persons? Are you kidding?
when they analyzed the financial transactions that would pass through their institution, they saw over $1 billion worth of transactions that ought to have been flagged. I think they brought action, JP Morgan, brought action against either the manager or the account handler. They did some internal work because they saw that had proper procedures been followed, these things would have received attention. I'm raising it because right here in Jamaica, we have SSL.
Oh, yeah.
And we have other things that have happened in the financial sector
FinSec?
where, well, that one is so big and old. But
You still need the FinSec report.
the FinSec report
needs to
would be
done.
instructive on some of the things that we ought to be catching now, maybe. But yes, FinSec is a whole different kind of thing. But you and I have come of age in the time of the anti-money laundering regime, the know your client customer regime, where a certain level of scrutiny should be applied to transactions of a certain value or transactions of a certain repetitive, consistent nature, names that we see recurring, gaps that we see in due diligence data and the like. The law requires a number of individuals across a wide spectrum of jobs,
The
industries,
lawyers, the people in the bank.
lawyers, real estate, brokers, dealers, anybody who if you're even just a business that see high value transactions being dealt with cash by the same persons, or there's a way that you can profile things now which should alert individuals
that day.
dealing with information that FID should receive a phone call. There's been multiple failures, have to be. We've had Alliance prosecuted for conducting a loan business in a foreign currency for which they had no license.
You have other banks that
we've
have
had
been
other banks.
but we don't hear anything about it.
At one point, FID said 6 financial institutions were under investigation for various things.
And we
don't hear nothing about it.
it.
The point I'm making is that when JP Morgan did what they did, they opened themselves up to scrutiny and claims by others, USVI being one, because the man maintained an estate, a private dwelling in the US Virgin Islands, which was being used in this international business that is not a business but a breaking of the law. And they succeeded to get a settlement out of JP Morgan in the sum of $70 million to be applied in a particular way. 20 million to legal fees, so the lawyers did nicely, and 50 million to charities and initiatives that serve the victims of these crimes. What should apply in Jamaica is my question, because we have the same thing happening here. Mr. Blackman confessed himself to be the one who led a criminal enterprise, giving instructions and so on. They were committing robberies. They were extorting monies from various persons. And it stands to reason that monies were going through various banks that they must have been using the bank. I don't believe that it would have been entirely cash.
No,
and
no.
if it were entirely cash, there are multiple vendors who would have been dealing with them and must have been concerned. They own real estate, they're living in houses, paying rent. There must be a lot of things that should have caused a law-abiding citizen to sound an alarm. What did I write for you then? I'm saying here that better regulations, deeper regulations, more education information, whatsoever it might be, greater legal activism. I'm saying this now, and I hope that some lawyer listening is inspired to now dig deep to say, okay, if I represent someone who was the victim of this gang or the victim of one of these banks causing a loss of money because they did not follow the rules, they did not sound the alarm, look closely at what action can be taken to restore to those who have suffered loss, because there is a shared liability which occurs. And I mean, I broaden my thinking to even look at real estate developments where the developer and the bank that financed the developer failed in their duty to ensure that purchasers of a development receive the value that they expected. I'm looking in the realm of sharing the responsibility for the failure of certain things with those who are deep in pockets and who stand in the background, profiting from the overall enterprise, but never having to take responsibility
for their
actions or their inaction.
Because remember,
So let's talk.
Wow, we talked about a whole heap of stuff, But what I hear coming clear is responsibility. Responsibility of those who are in governance to ensure that the proper systems are set in place. And we don't just say because they have money, they can do anything they want.
They because they are so deep in the back, you don't really see them.
Yeah. And then also,
if someone had cut off Mr. Epstein's access to his own money or the flow of funds, he would have been inhibited in the conduct of his business.
Right. and then as you responsibility, because the person who handled his account, the $1 billion that was flowing through, could I say, hold on. But the thing is that I'm getting a nice
commission
yeah,
or
yeah.
yes, or I'm in the, so there's that. I believe that in the area of private law, there's more that lawyers can do, following the money and tracking who really failed in what duty. And in the realm of public law, there's a lot more that we can do in terms of policy and regulations that can affect those things. I'm gonna consider it with a little more depth on the weekend and then come up with some things
Because
that we
because
can,
even
we
even
can
as you see
pursue.
what all of what's happening here in Jamaica, so the SSL is there,
Yes.
and you're saying to yourself, where's the bank's responsibility in all of
In all
that?
of it.
Because you
Yeah.
raised it from the very beginning. You say, but it's not like you. All right, so I put my money, you hold accounts, but then this money is moving out, and somebody not say $3 billion worth of it.
Yeah. And
you ask,
SSL can't move money.
so it's kind of very unfortunate that that does happen, and then we are now getting to a place where people are asking questions, asking very, very serious questions about, is there no morality to what we're doing?
So we're having a guest joining us at what time, Mr. Producer? Okay. We're scheduled to have a guest here. We just, a son of the soil who has returned to Jamaica from England, doing business with the government of Jamaica, working in the area of
data?
data security,
Oh, so
data protection. Right. And these are some of the, there are some tangential issues which may arise when he's here, because the business of that shared liability, those who are running in the background, without whose facilitation the deals cannot happen. Just like how the anti-money laundering regime has tagged lawyers and accountants as enablers, and they have stretched the regulation to reach the offices of those persons who are not central to the criminal activity. They're facilitators. They set up trust accounts. They might run a transaction. They'll put monies in their own account so as to complete a transaction, and it disrupts the chain of events enough to give coverage to the criminals. I think we need to consider now more greatly the role of the banks and financial institutions. So when we come back, we're taking our 8:30 break at this point.
8 o'clock
8
break.
o'clock? Oh, I wish it were 8:30. Good morning and welcome back. To those who are just joining us, this is the Morning Connection. We are here at the Ligani Club. Let me tell you, breakfast is in full swing, and I know they have ackee and saltfish. I can smell it. All of us can smell it. Yeah, it's a very lively scene off camera that Percy and myself have to be contending with. The producer's back is turned to it. He's only smelling it. We're both smelling
Smelling
it
it and
and seeing
seeing
it.
it. And it
And
looked
just
very good.
it looks good. 10 o'clock will come soon enough. We are grateful, of course, for the courtesies shown to us by the staff of the restaurant, JD's Urban Pub, and the Ligani Club. They allow us to use their beautiful garden. And for that, we say thank you, thank you, thank you. It's going on 2 years now. And I said earlier, we came here for 6 months, but here we are. It has been continuing with great benefits on either side. This morning, yours truly is putting Pastor Percival to the test with some questions concerning matters of life and afterlife.
Matters of life and death.
Yeah, so much death in the country right now. We oftentimes use the incidence of death as a measurement of the health of the country. And rightly so, if we are not able to sustain the life of our citizens in the normal, usual way, they're not dying prematurely, they're not dying
Ask the government.
because, and ask the government movement.
Ask
Yeah,
the
they're not
government.
dying prematurely by reason of accident or crime. It becomes a talking point on what we should be doing. Better, different. I use the word prematurely only to signal that there is an expected lifespan to human beings.
Yeah.
An adult human should live at least 70 years.
Yeah.
At least. That is
Right.
that is the measuring stick that we use. And it's a credible one because we set some things within the range of that 70-year mark. We say, be retired of your active service by age 60, now 65. So really, no, they're just leaving you 5 years more. We really should retire at 50. So we could have a good stretch to travel the world and attend to other matters. Nonetheless, I digress. We're talking about some great Jamaicans, young Jamaicans who are arriving in the afterlife. What can we say is the expected result based on how they lived? Did they die rich towards God? Is the expression. So there's that which has been occupying our minds this morning. But Percival, I mentioned to you, what of the children? We were talking about these 8-year-old girls and this young boy who died in a fire. And, Percy was emphasizing to me that this fire was not accidental. This was arson done in the most cruel way.
Firebomb.
Bombed the house, set on fire deliberately by wicked people, because that's nobody good gonna set a house on fire, which is occupied. You might set it on fire to get your insurance money.
And people have done that in the past, we
Yes,
know,
but to know that they're occupants of the house, that is just sheer wickedness. But let's speak on the issue of these innocent ones who return to their Creator before they are 70. I'm pulling the wisdom from you, man of God. There is innocence in children who are not at an age where they're responsible for the decisions they make. They are just victims of circumstances or other people's willful misconduct.
So that's
They're still rich towards God.
Yeah, they're still rich towards God.
Them heart's still pure.
Yeah.
It's all about the heart,
Yeah,
not
it
the
is.
hands.
Yeah.
Heart's still pure.
And I was just checking a news site a while ago, and they said they're looking for a 14-year-old boy for the injury of a lady in Carnation Market recently, and I'm going,
A 14-year-old boy.
14-year-old, and
What are the allegations?
he killed somebody, Carnation Market.
So it's not injury or a fatal injury?
Fatal injury, and then somebody is. So when a 14-year-old,
Oh, Lord.
a 14-year-old,
Well, at 13, we say that you have legal capacity at
Right.
the age of by 13. By 13, you can approach the throne of God on your own and be taken to and be held responsible for the pledges you make and so on.
But this is serious enough.
But I saw a 14-year-old boy who has committed such a
Murder.
crime, murder,
Incarnation.
if it
Murder. It's
is
been
true.
sought. They're looking for him.
Yes.
Yes.
But the question of how he will be treated by the courts depends on what we say in our law. But as a matter of morality in the eyes of God, yeah, he can discern right from wrong and make a choice
In terms
which
of
way he should go.
But you know that you see, because I do mentoring with young men, and that's the age group, the 12, 13, 14
Yeah.
year olds, and they are very conscious, but they can be easily swayed, you know.
Well,
And
woe to the one who caused somebody to lose their way, especially a vulnerable person like a child.
because it's still vulnerable.
That's why shared responsibility
Yeah.
is something that we have to take seriously and look for those who are the enablers, the facilitators, the ones who are really provoking a certain type of conduct to be perpetuated in this nation. And it goes both in terms of the civil liability, where it results in financial loss, as well as criminal liability, where it sets people on a path that take them into trouble. You were commenting on Andre Blackman's acceptance of responsibility now that so many stand convicted with him for this gang.
Yeah, and he said,
Which he-
I was listening to
which
it
he ran.
yesterday on the radio. It was being reported, and he basically says, I'm responsible. I was the person who do it. And him say, all right, I'm willing to
Take the maximum. How did he put it?
to stand to receive the just reward for what he has done.
Yeah, but be easy on these little ones.
Yeah, easy on the younger persons, because I do it. And people have to understand
I
how
wonder how that will feature in the court ruling.
in the and because remember, I remember one of my earliest interaction in terms of mentoring was before there was the incursion and so on. We took it up. We had a home for young men, and how we came up with the idea of the home for young men is that we did a ministry, football ministry, where we had a league, and we had the churches could, the ratio was 60% persons who are believers, 40% non-believers. So it was used as an outreach in the community, where a lot of churches are, to reach out to the young men. And as a consequence of that, the young men wanted to play football. Some of them were high schoolers, and we said, okay. But when they came to us, they told us stories of being forced to become members of the gang.
the
It's
gang.
either you become
Yeah.
a member of the gang or you can't live in the community.
Right. You
As
have
a
to
result
move.
of that, we had to move them out. And when they were telling us some of the stories, we say stories, but
And
the
then
reality,
they can't comfortably visit the community, because
Right.
if whenever they go back,
right?
they'd be
we
under
see it as
threat.
informers and things. So those are real
That's the reality.
situations in communities, even as I'm speaking now, with a lot of our young men. And then one of the things that is also happening is that these gangs are now going into a lot of the schools. So
To recruit and to
the recruit and the gang members
build a
are going to
presence.
school. And so we spoke
So
about it about 2 weeks
It's a
ago.
deeper problem
It's
than
it's a
it
deeper
might-
problem than
it might appear.
Yeah, so
And it requires intervention.
it has
That's
to.
really what you're saying.
It requires intervention.
Yeah.
And I told you the story of recently we just had to move a family whole scale out of the community because somebody had been shot and they were traumatized. And we say, come. So now we're seeking accommodation for them because they don't want to be there. And of course, the other young man who is 19, I'm repeating this. He saw his uncle dead, and then he and his friend was at home, same playing games, and he says, all right, he said there was a night happening. Say, man, we walk around the night, because you know, night, they have free food and thing. And things say goes around there. And he said, why him never go? Well,
Oh,
because he
because-
must play in the game. And he came to me crying. He just was tired of cowballing. Because
His
of the
friend.
trauma.
His friend died.
And he was just thinking about the reality.
How did
of
we
death.
get on that subject? What were we pursuing? Or you just created your own red herring and followed it?
No, it wasn't the red herring. It's just about responsibility.
Oh no, we were talking about so we have old people who have died because
And
they
young-
lived a long life,
and young
and
people.
young people who have been killed, traumatized,
And the
we're
children
talking
are
about
what
what happens with the children.
We're talking
All right.
about the 13,
Yeah.
14-year-olds who are
Right.
now.
But it fits into the concern I am raising with you, Percy, for us to dive into the behind the scenes of these happenings and ascribe liability to those actors who have failed in their civic or contractual or duty of one sort or another, statutory duties, and cause a situation to percolate that give rise. It may seem like a stretch, but when I look at the USVI getting their $50 million reward or settlement from JP Morgan, I know that the world is pushing the barriers, pushing the envelope on legal liability to see where the right action could have interrupted or shut down certain types of activities. And we know that when you cut off money, you cut off the bloodline for a lot of things.
Both
So
ways,
even these gangs who were running banking accounts and the like,
You can still do it.
you
And
can still do it.
That's why we're saying
And
in
where-
Jamaica, follow
and-
the money,
and
follow
where-
the money.
And where they are in funds, instead of the government just calling it proceeds of crime receipts and taking it into what they're calling their reserve fund, they should be looking to make restitution to victims. And don't put people through one whole song and dance to prove that you're a victim. Make it so that persons can come forward with ease and gain some level of restitution. There's a lady in my church who spoke about losing her house by reason of gang activity in Central Village. She was rendered homeless, had to run with her children, come out of the house. And she left a 4-bedroom or 3-bedroom house, which is occupied
By the gang
by the
members.
gang members.
And why doesn't
they're,
police
they,
go in
they
and deal
rent
with-
out and they're collecting rent and so on.
Yeah, and so the question, but that is not a,
Those are real
no, but that is
issues.
not a one-up issue, you know. That is a
Whole heap of
major
people.
in inner cities. People just
Let me
have
tell
a
you,
fear of their
another-
life. They're using
yeah.
the fear and intimidation. People have worked their
And
lives
take
and you
over
run them
people's
people's
house.
house. Yeah. And where's the police in all of
in
that?
all of it. Good.
Yes.
So we are onto something there. The second thing, and I want to touch on it before we take the break. And just as an aside, you remember the man who bought the constitutional motion against the DPP for the first approval she got to remain in office?
Bring
He has
it up.
filed another one because she now have a fresh
I remember
lease
there's
on
another
life. And I think
constitutional
others-
challenge happening
yes.
with the PMP led
yeah.
by.
Oh yes, others are coming. Others
He had
are
pointed
coming.
to it, you know.
Yeah. So we're going to return to that because that requires a whole set of analysis. But there's something else that I've picked up on. As you know, the Gleaner has been giving us the full bill and receipt on what's happening with Barita,
And
Mrs.
Cornerstone.
Humphreys Lewin, and the Cornerstone Young
Transact.
Turks, who sold her some shares and bought out her shares. And in the end, there is now a legitimate concern that something did not go as it ought to. I've been aware of this issue for some time, Percy, and I think it's now time we do something about it. Just as we have a concern for the rights of the disabled,
elderly.
and the elderly, there is a real issue of senior citizens
Been taken
being
advantage of.
taken advantage of in financial transactions, and there's no regulatory framework that governs behavior towards senior citizens and the kind of investments that get pushed at them
But as
beyond whatever insurance companies are doing and so on.
Beyond the protection, remember I told you about a case that I knew of. I think it was Meadowbrook or Havendale, where what's been happening is all of these apartments going up by the old building, and they came to this lady
Oh,
and was
yes, you
saying to
mentioned
her,
it.
we need to
Try to
catch it
bully
with the
her.
earth. And she said no. And then the next thing that happened is that a group of men invaded her house,
Oh gosh.
and there was a fire there because they were, and she said, I'm not selling. So who protects those people?
Yeah.
When all these so-called developers, they don't want to sell, leave them alone.
You can wait because they're bound to die.
Yeah, but no, man, it's no, man, it's no, it's no.
And even if that developer don't outlive them, another developer will take. But there is a real need for us to have stronger regulations
Protection.
that protect the assets and the well-being of
Of the-
senior citizens. Some time ago, I was doing something concerning trying to establish a guardianship. Well, in the US, they have all these guardianship laws where, you can be appointed as a guardian, the court will appoint you, or family members can appeal to the court. And they have state guardians and they have family who can be appointed as guardians for senior citizens who have to live in assisted care or who are in hospitals and different situations where the state needs someone that they hold responsible. And I had to do something in Jamaica concerning the affairs of this lady who was under guardianship in the US, had real estate and some things going on in Jamaica. And her guardian from the US wanted to do something in Jamaica. So we had to look at how could I register her guardianship under Jamaican law so that in Jamaica she could move in a representative capacity over this woman's estate. And our laws in that area are rudimentary and backward.
And the guardianship is like a younger person you're talking about, or older.
No, the guardianship is you, the guardian, is responsible for a senior citizen's
Okay. Now I'm
well-being and
understanding.
right.
Because when I think
So-
of guardian,
so
I
the-
think of an older person, a younger person.
Yeah, no, but it's the same.
The same principle.
It's the same principle, just that the age is different. We have been reading what happened with Mrs. Humphreys Lewin. It's many persons might find it embarrassing to bring that kind of information into the public domain concerning their elders, but it's very real, and it's time that Jamaica did more, and we can do more. So that is one of the initiatives that
But that's
I
a
am
big case,
praying
because even the gentleman who says, whoa, talking about 6
It's
million
time for our
US dollars.
8:30 break. So when we come back, we'll finish on this topic. Good morning and welcome back. At 8:36 a.m., I got a full reading of the menu. Those of you who are just joining us, we are at the Ligani Club this morning, and we are, of course, within view of the dining pavilion. We are on a section of it under the mango tree, but I got to share with you what's on the menu this morning. First of all, you say what you remember.
Um, there is, I mean, there's fried dumpling. There's saltfish with okra. There is
Yes.
escovitch chicken. There is salt mackerel. And
Callaloo.
callaloo. Right.
Don't
That's
forget
it.
the sprat.
And the sprat. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I didn't know. I
You did.
remember.
I mean, it's
Yes.
food. I expect you to remember all of it.
And
And the
it's
fruits. Their ripe
that's
bananas
right.
are on the table this morning. I've told them to please. Oh boy. Yeah, the fair this morning. And we were wrong. We were wrong. No ackee and saltfish. Rather, no ackee.
You have
Saltfish
saltfish
is there.
with okra.
Yeah. I don't know what we were smelling. Maybe it was the escovitch chicken.
And normally, if we don't forget, there is always
What, the pastries?
the pastries. And so
and
they
the
have
fruits.
coconut macaroons and
Oh, they have
fruit.
macaroons this morning?
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I
no,
saw it.
Percival passed there, you know. You
Yeah,
have not
man.
gone there.
Coconut macaroon, yes. It might finish by the
You
time
can't-
you're ready, but
You can't test Percy on what's on the menu. Okay.
But-
And you did want to mention the results of, you said it to me, you want to talk a little bit about the Gleaner Don Anderson poll that is throwing up some gems, which
we have
know it's a
declared a
done
long
deal.
time. We declared it a long time.
But
The
it's good
people
to see
want
people speaking.
we want a elected president.
An executive president,
president,
not just a paper
President.
figure or whatever you call it,
Yeah.
figurehead. Yes, so that's one.
And then also term limits for MPs. I'm saying no more than 2 terms of the MP.
MP and the PM.
Yeah.
They got rough. I didn't expect them to say that for MPs because some MPs can do
Good work.
good, yes.
But you know-
they say no more than 2 terms.
But you
And
know-
that's not necessarily a bad thing.
You know something that I did as I served as a volunteer, as a president. I did what I when
You,
I
you
came,
only offered yourself twice.
no, I
Oh.
put it in the constitution to say that because you need a refreshing of the ideas. And when I came there, somebody serving as a PTA president for 5-6 years. So no, need
that's
to
half
put
the
it.
problem.
And I say that
Yeah.
no man, you need to have fresh ideas.
Yes.
And if the people so feel to serve another term, it must be by overwhelming acclamation.
No, they
they-
must go do something else.
Yeah,
they
man.
can continue to serve. You don't always have to serve from the top. You can be a
You can
servant
serve
leader
yeah, well,
who just,
well, I am a servant leader.
yeah,
People,
you do what is needed at any time.
Right, yeah, but that is too much, man. Because you become drunk on not on food but on power.
On power.
Because earlier I'd say they become drunk on the food. You remember
The
that
smell
one?
of the food.
Yes.
That's the smell. Right. There was something else you wanted to mention. I don't want to miss it because this is our free flowing Thursday.
No, you were talking
kept
about
everything.
no, as a JP, you want to
Oh,
to
no,
put
that's
term
big
limit.
issue. Big issue. On my reform agenda, I'm putting it before you. This is now my own manifesto for what the Morning Connection will pursue with a little more diligence. In addition to fighting for regulations and policies that will protect seniors from abuse, both abuse of their person and abuse of their assets. And we are seeing that it applies at high and low levels. The big case with Mrs. Humphreys Lewin is obviously stealing the show.
The
But
guardianship laws you're calling for.
yeah, but you mentioned a situation in a Havendale community where a senior citizen was being bullied out of her house by thugs. I saw it, heard my sister in church speak about being pretty much chased out of her home, and her home is there today
Where
being
people-
used by other people who don't
By
deserve
the-
to be there.
No,
But
by
can I
the-
tell you,
by the gangs.
Yes, gang
and they're-
members.
and they're getting.
they rent it, they use it.
Yeah, and it's not only
Yeah.
in that community; it's all over the
all
place.
over the yeah. We
Yeah.
know that is happening, and I have called for our government or policymakers to look with a more critical eye on the financial side of how these types of activities continue to operate, the banking that stands behind it, because these people have debit cards and credit cards, and they're running huge cash transactions through the economy. People must know, and persons who know and remain quiet should be brought to account. Just like how the tech set on the lawyers and the accountants. We're gonna look now for on the supermarkets, the retail stores, the ones who should be keeping an eye on things. And if you see something, you must say it or be accountable.
You know the flip side to that also.
Yes.
I saw it happen in UK,
Yes.
and it's happened in some countries where persons who were pushing back against government, they debank them, like NGOs, and that's wrong.
Yes.
Because you have a opinion that is not according to the narrative that they go. They bank them. It happened with Barclays Bank in UK, and they ended up having to pay this charity a significant amount of money. And I know what was significant. Other people out there protesting, and that is what I call people power. We must activate people power in this country in terms of changing some of the things, because some of the
I'm going to touch one now that we're rushing now because we have a guest joining us at 9. I asked you a few days ago, had you, being a newly minted JP, presided over any grant of liquor licenses? And you said no.
No.
And I challenged you as a man of conscience to require the government to introduce conditions on the holders of these licenses, which require them to take responsibility, sharing the responsibility for accidents which occur while people are under the influence of alcohol. So there should be conditions. The bars need to have a way of ascertaining if somebody is too far in the wind. You know.
How
you feel about that?
Well, that is going to become very interesting. But it's something that needs to be put on the table as mute in regards to.
Yes. Fruits are being delivered. Let me show off my fruits. Sorry, Percival, but this is important business.
Put it on the table.
Yes.
You put it on the table or put it in your mouth.
Today we have ripe bananas. We have honeydew, melon, and cantaloupe. These look like American apples and Jamaican melon. So we have 3 from the melon family. Ripe bananas and apples. That's the selection of fruits being served at JD's Urban Pub this morning. I'm really happy for the ripe bananas. I love ripe bananas.
Always commenting on 5-year terms or 3-year terms.
2 5-year terms or 3 3-year terms for president in Jamaica. Well, Earl, please make sure you come to Jamaica and let your voice be heard. And
still vote.
Come and be registered to vote, and let's get it going. Okay. So that is my proposal, Pastor Percival. We are going to agitate for the liquor licenses to be conditional on the holders of such licenses being accountable for how much liquor they call. Maybe they need to keep a breathalyzer in their
They're stretching it now.
in their bar, and each person, I don't know, that might be an easy way. Each person have to blow in it before they leave. And if you hit a certain number, I'll take your car key, please. Let's call a cab. And we'll put it on your tab for the next session.
You think that would be a deterrent?
I think it would, actually. I think it would.
Why do you think that most men drink? I'm asking you as a female.
It's not the drinking I'm concerned about, it's the driving. I'm not trying to stop them from drinking.
All right. Let me ask you another question. That you're always asking the question.
Yes.
Why do most men
I have no idea. My man don't drink.
go to the bar?
And Lowell don't go to the bar. And I never date men in bars. I don't even go to the bars myself. I have no idea why they're there. Sometimes I hear it's the bartender.
The hypothesis. What's your hypothesis?
The bartender. Just like Adam and Eve, the bartender kept saying, I have one more. I'm not ever going to be serious about that question. I promise you, faithfully. I don't know why men drink. I assume it's the same reason why they lie, cheat, philander. get hooked on drugs.
What does philandering mean? You mean having holy power, man?
Laundering, I feel. Yeah, while they are maybe addicted to the adulation and approval of young females.
Okay.
Yeah. Insecurity, sadness.
I
am
think
being
that's one of the
serious.
reasons why I
Yeah.
think men
Or
take to the bottle.
and on a serious level, they get caught on it because there are some things that change in your body chemically when you become used to certain things and your body keep craving it, the lust of the flesh. Your flesh keep demanding it and you keep giving in. Lack of self-control. There are many things, I suppose. For each person, it may be different. Why did you ask? Because I wasn't addressing drinking. I was addressing driving.
If you don't drink it,
To be
don't-
serious. If you drink, don't drive. And the man who sell you the drink should share in the decision making about who's driving. That's what I was talking about.
I know
Let's be
about that.
clear, because some people may think, everyone knows my position. You cannot use law to enforce morality. But driving under the influence of alcohol is not about morality. It's about safety, public safety. You can absolutely use laws to promote, protect, deal with public safety, issues of public safety. That's a part of the covenant, that the government will pay attention to matters of public safety. That's why there are some things which, when they happen, you can rightly say, ask the government.
you can ask the government about it.
Yes, if you give me a challenge on how many times I can work that phrase into a conversation,
Ask the government.
ask the government.
It became a
It was trending.
It was
I
trending.
know.
Ask the government.
I know. I saw that it was trending. I was tickled by it because every right-thinking Jamaican knows say is a legitimate question. In certain conversations, it's quite appropriate to say, ask the government. And it don't matter what job position you occupy, as a Jamaican, you can still say, ask the government. So this morning I'm saying on matters of public safety, you can legitimately say, government, can you do something here because you have the power to make laws and to set policy and so on? I am recommending to you, Mr. Justice of the Peace, that on the first day they say, hear ye, Court of Petty Sessions is now in order. Justice of the Peace, Percival Palmer presiding, along with whomever else, because you don't sit alone.
It's true.
Yes. So Justices of the Peace, Palmer, X and Y presiding. I expect Justice of the Peace, Palmer, to say, concerning these liquor licenses, let it be known, it is against my conscience to grant liquor licenses without also holding you, the purveyor of alcohol, responsible for ensuring that your customers do not step into a motor vehicle to drive it while they are drunk. I expect Justice of the Peace Palmer to say it. I'll write the speech for you. What you think?
hear you.
Or you might say, I have brought my colleague to read a statement on my behalf.
As you talk about that,
Yeah.
we talk about the consuming of alcohol in excess
Yes.
and the impact on public health.
Yes.
In the same way, I have a major concern. The smoking in public spaces. Isn't it not?
That is against the law. That has been against the law for quite a
Why
few
is it
years
not
now.
enforced? Because I was talking to my daughters
Who's to enforce it, first of all?
and the police or the
You
government.
mean the police need to be in every public place?
No, but you see, they say, sir,
You and I, as citizens, need to take picture and make a complaint, as we would if we saw a murder being committed or if we saw someone robbed.
or
Citizens must complain.
you see me as in no, because even as to go back to where we started in regards to the driving. If you're in a bar and you're drinking, I say no, I know a person staying up. If him that is one too much, I said to him, all right, I'll drive you home. We can't come back for the car, but you're not driving because you are helping them. That's all. Becoming involved in the taking.
No, don't do that.
Why we shouldn't do that?
Have a taxi service on call. Every bar should now have a taxi service on call. And when you either you pay it out of your gross receipts, so you make sure that last drink that you serve the man must include his taxi
So you're
fare.
saying there's no community responsibility in terms of ensuring.
I wouldn't do that because God forbid if you go crash with the man.
No, you're friend. Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
But the
You
same
make
way the
sure.
taxi can crash
All
at the
right. So
man.
some places will say, but taxi have insurance for that, or should. If it's a group of persons, the person who's selling the drinks can say who's driving.
With a designated driver.
You can legitimately say that. There's nothing wrong, when people come in, you have a sign in your bar or you see them drinking, you find a polite way to say, now, please remember, the law requires me as the one serving you to make sure that as you are drinking and drinking, there is one of you who's assigned to drive to whom I serve no alcohol. Or maybe I only serve 2 drinks, depending on what the thing is.
Okay.
And it just requires...
Talking about new public policy or public,
Yes,
yes, in
it's a
terms.
policy. It's a question of policy, because without policy, and you now saying I'm being neighborly, and I say to a man who really should have stopped drinking 3 drinks ago, I then say to him, sir, how are you being transported home? Even if he's walking, he's a danger to himself and others. And I say, and he says to me, what business of yours is that? And I can't point to a policy or a law that says I am entitled to inquire. It becomes a fight.
When I fight it, and then when,
And you can't fight a
hello,
drunk.
say, hold on, that is true. Because some man drink up in order to get up them courage to
And
do what they would not
what they
normally,
would not normally
do.
do. And they're exceptionally belligerent. And you, the bartender, know, say you're not going to get no tip from this kind of loving kindness. And some persons would not be motivated to do it. But when you know that there is a policy and a law that supports you exercising that authority, because remember, foundation, all of us have these freedoms which allow us to do what we want to do unless there's a law against it. So I can't say the love of God compels me to stop you from taking the 11th drink. Although it
Love of
should.
God. No, it compels me to, even though at risk to myself, I will say
Yes.
to your brother, no.
Well, so that's why I'm saying to you, Mr. JP, the love of God compels you. When you are called upon to license people, say to your government, I cannot do it unless you are holding them. So anyway, I will help you with that one, because you need to start writing to the Justice Minister and the Governor General and all of the people who gave you your JP-ship to let them know that it's not enough for you to give me the authority to do this. Yes, the drink responsible thing is nonsense, because what level of responsibility do you retain after you're drunk to decide whether you should take 2 more, 1 more? I'm just saying.
So we have that. No, but I highlighted the smoking in public. It's a major concern to me. It is.
Yes, but the law is there already. So what it requires now is persons to, you can send out your smoking squad, that just take picture of people smoking in public places and send it to the police, or who's gonna do that? And so you're now looking at the social contract that underpins all these things. Are citizens really prepared to partner with government? So the law is there, and there's a great, as you say, social cost to the society to deal with the illnesses that come from abuse of the body in those several ways. We have to partner in it. Just like I was trying to get you as a JP to partner with me on that aspect of shared liability. I'm going very quickly. Now, we looked at the issues with farm works. The farm work, and I believe that the government has a role to play in making claims against foreign entities, governments, whatever, for violation of our people's rights when they are caught in certain things. Because they can't individually do it themselves and be taken seriously.
You're taking the precedence from what has happened in
the USVI. How do you mean, man, I'm writing that as a relevant, relatable, comparable, recent happening? I'm impressed by, I sent you a video as well of the Guyanese president on some British...
about...
speaking about reparations.
And I saw that. And then shut them up.
After he shut them up on reparations, they took him to task about how Guyana will use its newfound oil wealth. Will it just join the other rich countries and abuse the environment, or will it be responsible? Or maybe will it share its wealth money, its oil wealth with the other countries? And they mentioned Haiti and so on. The point I'm making is that when our leaders in the region take action and do things together, which promote the well-being of their people, it should inspire and motivate others to do the same.
I like how the Africans are responding to some stupid question that some people are asking them in regards to a lot of the things.
A lot of the things
and
that,
them
yeah.
just saying, oh,
Yeah, man, the spirit is awakening. But I try not to see it. I must say, I try to just track the principles that you and I speak of all the time to evaluate it so it don't become, divisive.
but hello. When you go against a narrative and a way of operating, you become divisive. Yeah, you will become divisive. So prepare yourself for that. I prepared myself for that when I'm going against the narrative that is set, and I begin to question it. Say, you ever think about what you think?
Do I think about what I think?
Yes. Does it make sense? Aye. Yeah.
So in the same spirit of activism and engaging our government in this work of seeking justice for the small man and the citizen, against large institutions like the banks, insurance companies, multinational farming operations that take our exported labor. I have included things like in our tourism industry, we do know that people come here seeking to take advantage commercially of, the rent-a-dread thing is a whole bit of a joke thing, but it really is human trafficking.
How come? And then the man is offering himself. The man, he knows what he's doing. So how is it human trafficking? Human trafficking is when one person knowingly takes another person and thing, but the rent-a-dread is the man.
But you have to remember, once we start to talk about like the farm work program, where the workers voluntarily consent and get into the program, but once they are in the program, they are used in a particular way. Any relationship in which one is so inferior to the other in either bargaining position or economic condition.
No, but I think the rent-a-dread is the man who is the dread is in the
I don't know how you know so much about it.
Upper hand.
I don't know how you know so much about it. But I wasn't
thinking. I wasn't thinking about
no,
it.
I wasn't citing it as for the commercial transaction that underpins it. I was citing it for the reputation of the country as a place where you can come and purchase the people. Let me just put it that way. Let me just put it that way because no, I'm not stretching it because it applies to men who are in the trade, are in the trafficking their persons. Good, you caught it. Yes. So then, if you know what it is, why were you asking
but I
me?
need the side for traffic my person.
So does that make it lawful?
Well,
because you decide to do it.
I'm not forced.
No, but it's not about you being held hostage, as you know,
because with human trafficking you're being held hostage against your
No,
will.
not all the time.
Yeah.
No.
Well, it's 9 o'clock. Right? We come back from the break.
Let me eat my ripe banana. No, I think you need to do a little more reading on it because that's what makes it. That is what. Welcome back. So we've had our fruits. Who noticed the fruits that we were showing off? Let me see. Usually I can count on at least one person. All right. So when we're back with a guest at the table, we're going to cut to him in a little while. But just to give you a little bit about who he is, young Jamaican man of sufficiently youthful years, born in Jamaica, but migrated to the UK in his late teens, he says. Nicholas, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, we have to thank you. No, we have to thank you because we see that even as you made some time for us, you're still on duty.
Yes, I am still, multitasking.
You're multitasking.
Yes.
But all right, so let's just introduce you properly to the listeners because was it last week? Last week
yes,
you
last
dropped
week,
by.
Yes.
You're part of the producer's new program where he picks a guest from the dining pavilion and we set up a conversation. Oh, the producer said you picked him.
Yes.
All right, so some picking is done.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But the end result
Not
is
the
that...
picking of the ackee that somebody go to prison for.
No, this one don't involve prison. So we have Nicholas at the table. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Right.
And give us the interesting parts, please.
Interesting. I'm not sure if there are any interesting parts. But anyway, I am a Jamaican. So I was born in Linstead, St. Catherine. Grew up in St. Anne. And
Where in St. Anne?
In St. Anne,
Bamboo?
in Calderwood.
Calderwood. Oh, yes, you told me.
Yes, a
Near
district,
Tremai. All right,
district
yes,
called
yes.
Calderwood in St. Anne.
Near
And,
Abuka.
near
Clarksonville.
Alva, not too far from Cave Valley.
Cave, right.
I tend to refer person in terms of the geographical region, which is close to Bob Marley's
Yes.
birthplace and where his mausoleum
resting place.
is. In
Nice.
fact, the school, Stepney Old Age School, is now renamed Bob Marley Secondary School.
Okay.
I went to that school.
You went to that school?
Yes.
Okay. And then you moved from St. Anne to...
I went to move from St. Anne and I was living here in Kingston,
Yes.
just off Red Hills Hill Road, Mannings Hill Road.
Yes.
I went to Papine Secondary School as well as St. Andrew Technical High School. And from there, I would say the rest is history. I went to the United Kingdom where I progressed.
How did
the
you
rest
go?
of my
Mom,
studies.
dad pulled you up?
It was my aunt, actually.
aunt, okay.
My aunt
Yeah.
who offered me the opportunity to...
Just you or siblings as well?
Well, siblings, but I was one of the first.
Okay.
Maybe I was the favorite, I'm not sure.
Well,
We always say that. He was the favorite one. Okay.
Yeah.
So while you were here in Jamaica, you told us a very interesting story as to
Yeah.
what you pursued
Yeah.
in high school.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then when you went to the UK, you had a choice to make. So
Yes,
let's give
yeah.
a little bit of background there.
Yes. So whilst I was at St. Andrew Technical High School, my career path, at least what I thought it was going to be at the time, was to pursue a career as an architect.
Okay.
So I did BTech in building studies. And if I had stayed in Jamaica, I probably most likely would have gone on to UTech,
yes.
as it was called at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
But I went to the United Kingdom and continued building studies. But also there was a module in the course which included trespassing and trespass to land, which I thought was very interesting to me and intriguing.
Yes.
So I applied for university and enrolled onto 2 degree courses. I was quite optimistic and most brave at the time.
Ambitious and talented.
Absolutely. And when I went to the registrar, I was told I had to make a choice between either Bachelor of Science in Quantity Surveying or LLB Law.
Bachelor of Laws.
And I chose law in the
The
end.
law
Yeah.
won out.
Yeah.
All right. We're grateful for that because through the study of law, you're here in Jamaica now,
Yes.
pursuing some high value work, which again is a combination of disciplines.
Yes.
Tell me
Yes.
about that.
Yes, so I set up a company in the UK called Avla Business Services. And by the way, the name Avla is rooted in Jamaica, right?
Yes.
Because somebody online is saying, is this on me born?
Somebody
Yeah.
say Conrad, one of our listeners in Canada, say 9 Mile is my place.
There you
That's
go.
where he's
There
from.
you go.
And another one says Alva Migro.
Absolutely,
Grow in
yeah.
Alva.
So
I know
yeah,
Alva.
so
And he
Avla-
says, "Good morning, Mr. Nicholas Foster.
good,
You're getting some."
good morning, good morning.
from
It's,
mine.
it's good to have you. So
So Avla.
Avla is actually Alva spelled backwards. Yeah, because I used to walk from Calderwood, especially on Easter Monday, to play cricket at Alva. So lots of fond memories. So anyway, I set up this company in the UK, Avla Business Services, and in terms of the functions of this company, is around helping organizations to comply with their legal obligations under data protection laws, and
right.
data privacy laws.
So did you work in that area before?
Yes,
Or
yes.
what did you do?
So I've worked as head of information governance for one of the largest private healthcare providers in Europe. That's over 110 legal entities with over 10,000 staff
Really?
across
Entire-
England,
yeah.
Scotland, and Wales, as well as in Germany, and as well as in the Far East. And this was really ensuring that company was compliant in terms of training staff, etc., advising executive leaders.
And so the healthcare industry is probably one of the most sensitive, next to banking and finance, when it comes to protecting people's
people's
personal data.
Absolutely.
So you were working at the top of the pile,
Yes,
really.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
How
you said
long
you
did
working
you
on the
serve
top
in
of
that?
the top
Yes,
of the
he
pile. How
was.
long did you serve? Because he
How
don't
long
look
were
that
you-
old. I'm just looking at him
The
and
man
saying,
grew up in St. Anne. He's
yeah,
ageless.
No,
Just look at the St. Anne people and just know.
Yeah, well, as the saying goes, I'm sure you use it here, black don't crack,
Don't
right?
crack.
So I've worked in the company for over 5 years
Yes.
in that company.
So you acquired expertise.
Yeah, I worked in previous company. In totality, I've been working with data protection laws for over 15 years
Okay.
in one shape or another.
Which means you saw it from its struggling infancy
Absolutely.
into it's like a teenager now because it's
Absolutely.
still not mature.
No,
Nowhere.
It's not.
adolescent.
It's
It's
not.
still
yeah, it's a
adolescent.
teenager
It's
now.
not. And even though we would like to describe ourselves in the UK and Europe as a mature data protection economy and jurisdiction, there are still gaps.
Yes. You're
and-
just ahead of some.
Yeah, absolutely. And persons may think that data protection is new. So, for example, in Jamaica, one of the reasons why I'm here, and also you mentioned I was also busy earlier, is regarding a seminar which we'll talk about, no doubt, tomorrow. The data protection law in Jamaica was passed by the Jamaican Parliament in June 2020 and comes into effect in December, on the 1st of December this year. Person will think that data protection is a new concept, but it's not. For example, in the UK, there was a data protection law of 1984, and subsequently in 1998, upon which the Jamaican law is
It's
modeled.
premised, yeah. But prior to that, all of the privacy laws and the secrecy acts and so on were part and parcel of that foundation of treating as sacred and
People's information.
yeah, certain
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
So that's been around, as you say,
For
for a long
centuries,
time.
yeah.
The newcomer to the game, which has made it so much more sensitive now, is the use of technology.
Yeah.
And the massive gathering of data which takes place in almost every transaction you do.
Yeah.
If you go to the hardware, they're offering you some kind of loyalty card
card,
that
Yeah.
requires them to know the weight of your child at birth.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
everybody's amassing
Yeah.
huge pots of data,
Yeah.
and what you do with it is very much
Yeah.
a government issue.
Yes. So that is a key driver for the reason why in Jamaica, we are talking about data protection.
Yeah.
And
So
principles.
Avla, your company,
Yeah.
is it like a consultancy? Does it have patented software and programs that it uses to deliver its service?
Yeah, so it is a limited company that is currently registered in the UK, and we are, as we speak, we'll be registering an entity in Jamaica.
In Jamaica.
As well.
Okay.
Welcome home.
Absolutely, thank you. Coming back home, full circle,
Yes.
so to speak. And it's just primarily at the moment, a consultancy service.
So you sell the expertise
Absolutely.
to guide others
Yeah.
in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are and also working with companies here in Jamaica, across the Caribbean, for example, in Barbados, to map their data processing workflows and activities, if you like, auditing
Yes.
their data processing practices to understand what information they keep, as you mentioned, the hardware in terms of offering your loyalty
Yeah.
cards and collecting your data. So each company would need to understand
And
what
maps
goes on.
and their protocols. You're helping them to
Absolutely.
develop
Yeah.
protocols
Yeah.
as to how you manage this information.
Yes.
I wanted
And how you separate it from the pool of information that is generally accessible even to all members of staff.
Yeah.
Because I swear, I think some of those promotional ads that come to me on my cell phone, it is not necessarily the cell phone provider who is facilitating it.
No.
Because their staff can sell.
Yes.
sell something.
Just
yeah.
the same thing with
Yeah.
lotto scamming.
Yeah.
Are you turning your attention to lotto scamming? Are you at liberty?
But before, when you talk about data protection, as a pastor,
In terms of lotto
Lotto
scamming,
scamming, yeah.
So that will be, if you like. So short answer, I'm going to give you a loyally answer.
I'll take it.
So the short answer is not at the moment, not directly, but indirectly, yes. Because as part of data protection, companies are required to have adequate safeguards, technical safeguards and systems to protect
firewall
your
as
data and my data from any outside interference,
Interference, or
unauthorized
even
access,
internally.
or internal
Yeah.
leaks or theft of data.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so the data
Yeah.
controller will be held accountable and will be responsible. So will be held accountable as in the ordinary
Must
job
explain
person. Yeah, exactly. Must
what
explain
transpired.
the person on the street
Yes.
whose data is compromised.
how come?
Exactly
Yeah.
why
Like
Yeah.
FSC.
and what systems are in place to rectify that.
right.
But also they could be sued
Oh.
by persons for an unlimited amount. And also they could be fined
By the
by
regulator.
the regulator, the Office
Yeah.
of the Information Commissioner. And then on
Yeah.
top of that,
You know you have to come back because all of what you said there is one whole discussion.
program by
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
But I just want to ask him it. So that means that for a lot of churches,
yes,
the
I'm glad
Data Protection Act.
is relevant.
Lord have mercy.
so I'm
Everybody,
glad,
if you have information,
yeah, I'm glad
the,
you brought into the equation, into the
the
discussion.
qualifying characteristic, isn't who you are.
No.
It's what you have.
It's what you have.
If you have information, it's relevant.
You're covered. But lots of churches think that they are protected. They're
Divinely protected.
Divinely.
Well,
And
but we are.
unfortunately, unless you have the data of angels, you won't be divinely protected.
But this is important
It is
because
important.
because I'm saying we have this all this information on our members
Yes.
and dependent on whatever software you're using, because there are different softwares that people use to collect your offerings,
Yeah.
your tithes,
Yeah.
your children, where
Yeah.
you live, where you work.
Yeah.
So we gotta talk, man.
Yeah, a lot of data.
Well,
Yeah.
can you please tell them what your hourly rates are and the kind of
Oh, you commit
contracts?
to this.
It's not free.
I know it's not free, but this
Yeah.
is important
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it says it becomes effective in December,
Yeah.
and therefore a lot of churches, I believe, are at risk
Yes.
if they don't put something in place
Yeah.
and have a designated person within their organization.
Do you need a tutor, another consultant to join your team? This one will work with the churches.
Potentially.
No, but just in terms of information and the implications for churches, because we have the highest percentage of churches per square foot in this country.
We are very much aware of that. In Jamaica.
So please make sure you two pay me a commission.
I was waiting for that.
This business that I see
No, but it's
to birth
serious.
here.
We're open to negotiate.
My manager will speak to you.
You know, but before he goes, he said something I found very interesting. I just want to backtrack.
Yeah.
So here you are as a Jamaican who has migrated to the UK, went to school there, and you are head of an organism. You're head of a section of a company that's about 10,000 employees as a person of color.
Yes.
How was that for you?
Not without its challenges.
Yes.
Persons people should be aware we're not in a sort of post-racial society.
Yes.
And I would say, in terms of the short answer to that is that racism, especially in the UK, parts of the UK, is less overt, right? And it's more polite. So
racism is polite?
So as in indirect.
Yes.
And sometimes you wouldn't notice it unless you are actually quite clued up.
Very astute.
And astute in terms of what
how it is presented.
And how it is perpetrated across society. So not without its challenges, but one has to. Growing up in Jamaica, I learned how to be tenacious.
Okay.
And ambitious and to persevere.
Yes.
In spite of the odds.
Worst experience you would put in that category?
Well, worst experience is where you are the only black person of color, sitting around a senior table, and person would ignore your advice or ignore your presence, just because of who you are, as opposed to what you're saying. Yeah.
So that's. Okay, that's as dramatic as it gets. Never locked out of the men's room, never told to sit at the back of the dining pavilion.
Not in my case, to be honest. To be honest, I've heard many
because
terrible stories.
There are a lot of women experience it, black or white. They're sitting at a table and they're invisible.
Yeah.
Or they're the one that you get. Can I get a cup of coffee, love?
Yeah.
Or would you copy this?
Yeah.
It's assumed that that's your role.
Yeah.
So being invisible and your advice being ignored is kind of commonplace. I was looking for something,
Yeah. Well, for me,
are you hiding that one from me?
For me, I'll give you an example with my son. He's 24. And he got a placement, and he applied and had to compete with 200 young people. And he was the final two who got selected. And he ended up working for the FIFA headquarters in London. And he spilled his coffee. And he knelt on the floor and was wiping, mopping the coffee.
Wiping it up as he's taught in his home.
A white man stood over him, put his foot in front of him with his shoe for him to wipe his shoe.
So he was a shoe shine boy, just
Yeah.
resting on the floor.
Yeah.
So you gotta finish that story.
So never push him down.
Yeah. So these things, they do happen.
So did it end with an apology? The man saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were my shoe shine boy."
My son raised the matter with senior persons, and the man he denied it ever happened.
Oh, he said he was just standing there.
He denied.
Oh, never happened. Was not there. Not my foot.
Yeah.
Shaggy has a song for that.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
Yeah. If you caught in the act,
Yeah.
it wasn't me.
It wasn't me. And no, since that happened to your son, that's a recent.
Yeah,
very
that's
event.
more recent.
And that's the kind of subtle thing you're talking about.
They're quite subtle, and in some cases. So I guess these days.
So they didn't have a camera in the lunchroom?
Unfortunately not.
Oh, so that was canvas.
Yeah, unfortunately not. Yeah. But unfortunately, I think because there are so many laws, equality laws now, for example, in the UK,
they have to be more
racism
subtle.
Absolutely, it's less overt.
It's
It still happens. For example, on the football pitch, where they will show banana skin at black players.
Yeah. Do they know banana is high in potassium and the skin is actually quite
You know,
nutritious?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I know. It
Yeah.
says so you enjoy being in Jamaica where you are beloved and honored, and
I always
the most
enjoy.
you have to deal with is
always enjoy coming back to
Or
Jamaica.
somebody
Yeah.
trying to take something off you because of your accent.
Always, always, always,
it's just a test.
always.
Let's see your accent.
I try when I go to the market, for example, Bronson Market, it's like, how much is that? Give me
You
that.
try to get
Try
your
to get,
Jamaica
and they look for you good and say, "Oh, no. Hey, what you
How
trying
much
to
for
do?"
that?
No, man, you need to tell them that you just come off the cruise ship. You were working.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Data
on
protection.
this program, we have a certain perspective on the value that our children of the diaspora bring to the table, and you are the living, breathing example of it.
yeah.
You come back with something that is a blessing to the nation,
yeah,
and now you're working with both private sector companies and public sector,
yes,
right,
yes.
to bring this knowledge.
Yes.
What? Tell me about the seminar, which is for tomorrow.
Right, so the seminar tomorrow is titled Roadmap to Compliance, the Jamaica Data Protection Act. And it will be held tomorrow, 29 September, at the Courtyard Marriott Hotel from 10 a.m. until...
That's the one right near here
Yes.
to where we are at the
Yeah.
Ligani Club.
So from 10 a.m. until 12 p.m.
And it's open to the public?
It's open to leaders within the business community.
So what do they need to do? It's
So in order to attend, they would need to complete our registration form that can be located on my WhatsApp, I was going to say WhatsApp, Facebook, etc., but primarily on the Instagram page. You can find me, which is Data Protection Made Easy. There's a registration form there. And the approach that we take is to ensure that compliance with data protection law is not onerous, is not complicated, it's not costly.
So is there a cost for attending?
No, it's a complimentary
It's a
seminar.
complimentary seminar.
Wow.
Hence, we are
That's for
targeting.
giving back.
We are
Well,
targeting
please
business
get all of
leaders-
your
leaders.
church leaders.
Yeah.
Can you be online or you have to be in
No,
person?
it has to be in person.
All right,
Places
person.
are limited. We have 60 places.
Oh, geez, that's gone.
So first
Okay,
come,
so you
first
may be at
served,
the door peeking in.
and also in terms of the organization, which persons would represent,
Mm-hmm.
because the aim is to reach those influencers and leaders within the public sector and the private sector, so that they are aware of their obligations for their organizations to be compliant with the new law that comes into effect.
I'm tempted to push a little bit. I'm just gonna
Sure.
know what that sign means? No pushing. All right. We have to take our 9:30 break. But
Okay.
when we come back, some of the matters that I just give you an idea of what to look forward to. Percival and I were speaking on shared liability for some crimes that are facilitated through the financial system, how data is used,
Yeah.
the obligation to safeguard it, to analyze it, and to sound an alarm when certain things are apparent. We were talking about that, so I'm going to touch on it when we come back to see how even the Data Protection Act
Yeah.
or the abuse of it
Yeah.
can feature
Yeah.
in the reforms that Minette is proposing as we move forward. Take a break.
Excellent. Thank you.
Best 100 FM is the authentic voice of Jamaica, promoting your prosperity with better vibes and better music. Let us promote your goods and services for you. Advertise with us. For more information, call our office at 876-276-8935. That's 276-8935.
This is your beloved Pastor Percy from the Morning Connection. Support our commitment to Jamaica by joining us on Wednesday mornings at 7:30 when we pray for the nation. Show us you care. Advertise with us. For more information, call our offices at 876-276-8935.
Welcome back. Our guest at the table is Nicholas Foster, son of the soil, and more specifically, son of Saint Anne. Saint Anne is claiming you
Saint
because so
Catherine.
far,
Three persons online have
all Saint Anne.
All Saint Anne,
Yes, I am proud of Saint Anne, the Garden Parish.
The Garden Parish.
The biggest parish.
I was born there. Lowell was born there. I born and grew up there. Lowell was born there. Grew up in St. Catherine.
Yeah.
And then, but so we, it's a mixed bag
Yes,
here at the
yes.
table. Percival is St. Catherine. St. Catherine.
Saint
Where are you
Elizabeth.
born?
Okay.
Oh, but you grew up in St.
St.
Catherine.
Catherine, right.
All right. So all of us have our migration path.
Yes, yes.
Just to tell you, one of our listeners, Taki, is saying, all the best, Nicholas Foster. Same parish as my parents. In fact, my old man is directly connected to 9 Mile. And so
Yes.
you're amongst friends and family, so to speak. I want to turn your attention as we are talking. If you're just joining us, Nicholas is an expert in law and in data protection, has worked at the highest level in the UK, serving healthcare institution that had businesses throughout the UK, England, Wales,
Far East.
Ireland,
Yes, yes.
into the Far
Scotland,
East,
yeah.
and Germany.
Yeah.
Yes, let's not forget Germany. So he has worked at the highest level, giving him both the practical experience of working in the field as well as the managerial experience. And now he has his own consulting firm, and we are pleased to know that the Jamaican government has contracted him to do some work in that area with local institutions.
Yes.
And Percy is obviously going to contract him to work with the church. The church is not in a position
Because
of
he
great
pointed,
readiness.
he pointed out that
As long as you collect data.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're
Under the
liable
law.
to
Yeah,
act.
yeah. If you,
Under
if,
the
yeah,
law.
If you, the catch-all terminology is process.
Yeah.
So if you process personal data, you're covered. You're covered.
You're caught by it.
Yeah, the law
Yeah.
applies to you. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to be knowledgeable on
And
it.
he said something just before where you were going. He says that our laws are more.
Stringent. Yeah.
Yeah, but that
Yeah.
was off camera, so we need to
Yeah.
Yeah.
get it on air
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So that's the context in which we're speaking with Nicholas. I want Nicholas now to just give me what he's seeing for Jamaica as the connection between efficiencies in the provision of core goods and services and the compliance with the Data Protection Act. And to be fair, those listening, I am trying to see how Jamaica will treat this piece of legislation differently from other laws that have come up, which we have had to deal with, like the Access to Information Act, which has all these requirements and officers in position, but most times people do not have access to information. Are we going to see some increased efficiencies, both in the public sector and no doubt the private sector, as a result of the proper implementation of this legislation?
And integration into the business.
Yeah,
process.
yeah. So there are a few keywords there
Yes.
in your question. So I would say it's yet to be seen whether or not this law will deliver, right,
What it
based on
promises.
its grand and lofty aims. What I do know, in terms of what's on the statute book, is that this law is more stringent than even the UK law or European law upon which it is modeled.
Yeah.
Right? So, for example, senior persons within organizations could receive custodial penalties, sentences.
Prison term.
Prison term,
Anybody who
right?
sounds fancy with the British accent.
Be sent to prison,
Oh my Lord.
Right? For
Similar if I'm the
for
CEO.
up to 10 years. For up to 10 years.
10 years.
Right? For certain
You know,
contraventions.
we're just at like 15 years minimum for rape.
There you
And
go.
you're saying if a Digicel senior officer allow my private personal information that they should only have to provide me service, if they allow it to be sold or used in some way, whether it cause me harm or not, the breach of that requirement could land such a person in jail for 10 years.
Could not the
Yeah,
CEO.
yes, depending
Yeah,
on
assuming conviction.
Yeah. So
Yes.
depending on obviously the due process and the gravity
man.
of the contravention,
Yes.
and also the aggravating features
Yes.
against mitigating features.
Features.
But that's what the law says.
So there is a construct under which it could end up with
It
a
could.
CEO
It could.
who never touched a button, who never actually did anything more than
Yeah.
head the business,
Yeah.
failed to ensure that his business was compliant, a breach occurred which is proven to have
Yeah.
breached the law,
Yeah.
such a person could end
Yeah,
up in
yeah,
jail.
because the
What a
CEO is
wonderful day it
ultimately
is in
responsible.
Jamaica. Yes.
Ultimately responsible.
What else?
So what happened with ministers of government and permanent secretary? Same
yeah,
thing?
yes.
Well, the law relates to and targets data controllers, right?
The government is the biggest data controller.
For each government department,
Yes,
there's a data controller.
I see.
So, for example,
So it's
the
personal.
Ministry of Health is the data controller, right?
Yes.
As the organization is the
Right.
data controller, and the organization is ultimately responsible. Persons within the organization obviously will have to answer to the regulator,
right.
And each data controller, especially public service data controllers, must appoint a data protection officer.
So the data protection officer would be the person on the spot. That job position will remain vacant for a long time.
You know, I was about to say that it has opened up a new era of.
Goodness.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
can call me assistant data protection.
But I'm not the data.
But I'm
so,
not the guy.
So what? So the person who would be
So,
employed
no,
in
first,
such a
let me-
position,
let me
what
track the
are their?
liability. No,
Yeah, so just
we're getting
clarify.
excited.
Yeah, so just
Let's
clarify.
track the liability. So they have a person who occupies a position that is created in statute, and you have to employ someone in that position.
Yeah.
That person obviously reports to someone else.
Yes.
So give me the
Right.
line of
So the
before
person,
the minister
the
starts
person-
to make a phone call.
Yeah. So the person who is like the internal police
Yes.
or guardian of the data protection law within the organization is the data protection officer. They are not necessarily the person who will be able to answer
To the court.
to the court
Yeah.
unless they fail to do their job.
Yeah.
So, for example, if the
There
data
might be
protection,
several persons who get charged.
So, for example, if the data protection officer flags with the senior manager, CEO, and they said, well, you know, you're collecting someone's, I don't know, bank card details, and you shouldn't be doing it. Or you do know that that's actually stored in a manner that is subject to cyber hacking or scamming
Yeah.
or breach.
Yeah.
And the CEO or relevant manager fail to take action. Then obviously,
That one
that's
has
the
done his
person
job,
who's going
and
to
you're
be-
now looking at the senior manager.
Absolutely going
And
to
it
be-
continues that way right upstream.
Yeah, absolutely. So persons who are senior persons within the organization is accountable and is responsible for flagrantly flouting or abusing or misusing or
The
ignoring the law.
Yeah.
Right. So those penalties are there. In addition to custodial or prison sentence, persons can sue the company.
So my information that's been compromised, I can now
You can sue,
file my civil action.
You can
Yes.
sue whatever. I won't name any companies.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
you can sue that relevant company for causing you distress or harm as a result of your information that's been compromised.
Yes, because let's say I'm addicted to alcohol and I'm trying to work past my addiction, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day I'm getting these beer promotions.
Yeah.
And being tempted.
Yeah.
That is great distress.
That's great
Yes,
distress.
I'm building my own case.
I thought she said it. So, but okay, all right. Let's see. So, if the data is there, it is exposed, like what has happened with FSC, where that's in the news.
Yeah.
It's been hacked into.
Yeah.
Would that be a case in point if it gets?
Thank God it's not December yet.
Yeah, that's a data breach. That's a clear data breach. So if the law was in
In
force,
effect.
then the information commissioner would have to mount an investigation,
Yes.
and that organization would have to explain what happened. Yeah.
And they
So
check along the
yeah,
different
yeah.
lines to see where it failed.
Absolutely.
If it failed.
Yeah, and it
Because-
depends on what action the Office of the Information Commissioner decides
Decides
to
to
take, you know, and also the extent of the failure, and also the systems that they had in place, and also could have been foreseen, and what did they do to prevent it, etc. An investigation have to be
Would have
carried
to.
out
So-
by the Office of the
yeah.
Information Commissioner.
So let me ask you this. The Office of the Information Commissioner can apply administrative sanctions before it gets to even a court situation.
The core situation relates to the period of imprisonment, etc.
Yes.
The Office of the Information Commissioner, after, for example, an investigation, could decide to impose a financial
Sanction, which doesn't include going to court.
Absolutely.
He does it off
Yeah,
his
yeah,
own.
yeah.
All right.
But
What
let me
if
just ask a quick
Yeah.
question. So the person who takes up such a position and say, I want it, what kind of qualification? What is law or is it IT? What is the mix?
As a data protection officer?
Yes.
So a data protection officer, the law says they shouldn't have any conflict of interest.
It doesn't specify any educational qualifications.
It doesn't such a list or prescribe what qualification. It should be someone that is suitably qualified to fulfill those functions of the data protection officer. So, for example, back in Europe, the data protection officer is someone who knows the business, right?
Yes. So you can track the processes and anticipate what should be there and recognize what shouldn't be there.
Absolutely. So, for example, in the health service, there should be someone who understands health data and understand how it should be handled.
And what's required for this kind of business.
Absolutely.
Yes. So even in, say, telecoms, if you are purchasing a service and they want to know your blood type, it should be an indication to the data protection officer that what?
Absolutely.
You need blood type.
Why
would you need this?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you picked up on that, because under the law, the Jamaica Data Protection Law, there are 8 standards or principles,
which you should see throughout
absolutely.
the entire.
And one of them is data should the purpose limitation. So if you're collecting my data, my information, question is why?
It should be relevant.
Now I should ask you why. It should be relevant to a specified purpose.
So
let me use an example and you give me a comment on that. You go to money remittance, and you have satisfied them as to your identity, and you have given them some indication of relationship between you and the sender. Then they ask you, what are you using the money to do? And then they tell you that Bank of Jamaica requires it. Comment?
Right. So it could be that that's a reasonable question, depending on what the guidelines they have. So, for example...
But shouldn't the guidelines now comply with the Act? You're saying
they should
the
comply.
Act sets a standard against which now we can test the guidelines that people are imposing.
You can push back and question, why do you want it? And they ought to justify their reason. So, for example, given that there's so much scamming going on currently in Jamaica, right? That could be a reasonable question if it is to sort of ascertain and help them to determine whether or not there's a potential risk or some kind of inappropriate activity being carried out. So it could be a reasonable question. We don't know any sort of intricacies of their systems and procedures. It's hard to say whether or not it's a question
that answer alone tells me you studied law. If nothing else that we talk about this morning betrayed your knowledge of law, that answer.
No, but
what say you, Pastor?
No, but when they ask you those questions, what they going to do with the money?
Yes.
So by the time I say, I'm going to go buy something with it. And
I know. I have a friend who routinely puts on insurance forms. Source of fund, prostitution. He said he writes it.
Which is the oldest profession.
And he says never has he got a call back. Nobody looks at it.
Yeah. But you see, once they're abiding by the principles.
Their producer says they won't look at it until he makes a claim. Then they'll disqualify him after they collected his premium.
Yes,
lack of good sense. We're enjoying the conversation.
Yeah,
the time is running.
Thank you.
It's 9:51. We usually
already.
No, but
Nicholas, you know that we want you to come back, please.
I am happy to come back.
The 8 standards.
Yeah.
I
want us to go through the 8 standards.
Okay, that's fine.
And beyond that, for us to have a conversation that helps those who are controlling data to be more knowledgeable on these new obligations. Last question. Are there any exemptions?
Yes, there are a list.
Let's see if we can fit Pastor in an exemption.
A list of exemptions. There isn't an exemption I'm aware for religion or religious activities. But for example, if you handling information like for law enforcement purposes, it really depends on, there are certain, there's scope within the law, right? So for example, there's on the training yesterday, we were talking about access requests. So for example, from the 1st of December, the ordinary person on the street, Joe Bloggs, John Brown, whatever, can make a request to either to the church, to an organization for a copy or
Of the
copies of their
information
data.
that you have on me.
And generally,
Yes.
that organization ought to respond and provide within 30 days
Right.
their information.
Yes.
But there are exemptions. So for example, if your information is being handled or held to do it for law enforcement purposes,
I can't write the police and say.
that could be an exemption to say, well, we
Tell me
can't
what you
give
have
you
on me.
that because that would prejudice law
Ongoing
enforcement purposes.
or-
Or
yeah.
if you've obtained legal advice in
National
terms of an
security.
employee, right? You can
So privilege.
privilege information
yeah.
is exempt. And there's a list of
Lord Nicholas,
exemptions.
we need a whole
Yeah.
2 hours for
Just
you.
open up.
I'm now sorry we didn't invite you from 8:30. So we could have had another
absolutely
half an
fine.
hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right,
It's a
thank you,
start of the
Nicholas. Please,
conversation.
please don't leave. Let me
Yeah.
just thank those who have been online and on air journeying with us this morning. It is Thursday, so you know, Pastor Percival and Miss Minette, we go on weekend as of today. Yes, we take our weekend.
yeah.
Thursday is the new Friday. Thank you, Lloyd, back at the studio, Mr. Producer here. Thank you especially for bringing Nicholas to us. I do hope that we will have some more occasion to talk with you because this is a really huge area.
And a lot of people are not,
And a lot of people are not. So
aware of the
we passed the act
implication.
in 2020. We say effective 2023. It was always so. But many of us are only starting our preparation
yes,
now.
application,
Some
yeah.
haven't started any preparation at all.
Yeah.
Well, I can't even read what Big Truck, now 5-star kitchen is saying. Have some conviction first. I'm not sure what that means, but thank you. Have a great weekend, everyone. We're going to stay and chat some more with Nicholas, as well as have a mix of the wonderful food that JD's Urban Pub has laid out this morning.
Yeah.
So this is us signing off.
That's right.
Any word from you, Pastor?
What we don't bucket out, as I often say.
All right. Blessings from the pastor.
That's great. Thank you.